Didn't want a long introduction, so I won't give him a long introduction. And so I'm going to present to you right now from the Imperial Japanese Navy retired Captain Nakasone. Konbanwa. よくいらっしゃいました。これは中曽根大尉だ。I want to thank you to come on a very bad evening to come to hear a veteran speak about this big event that changed many lives. As our illustrious gentleman there said, I am Captain Nakasone, Imperial Japanese Navy. I was fighter pilot, 0 Sen, 7 December 1941. Many of you have heard all kinds of stories about how December 7 occurred. Some of you may have gone over to Pearl Harbor. I have been there many times. In fact, I just returned 21 December after another visit there. Every time I visit there, my heart goes up into a lump up here. It was a very, very great event. But I am sure you have heard about the Japanese attack from the American viewpoint. Let me talk to you tonight from the Japanese side a little bit, okay, if you will allow me to. As most of you are well aware, prior to December 7, 1941, relations were very, very difficult between the United States and Japan. As you are also aware, by 1941 summer, Indochina Peninsula invaded by Japanese and occupied. 100,000 Japanese troops in there already. As you know, Japan had to import oil, and already by this time, oil was at an embargo stage. All the other things we are well aware. Scrap iron. And of course, the imposition of locking up funding for Japan in America. And it is true, we responded too. However, you must look at it from the Japanese side from this, in that Japan has to import oil. Over 80% of oil came from America. And now when America says no more oil, and when you realize that Japan, from the time of the 1894-95 Sino-Japanese War, and from the time of 1868, with the Meiji Restoration, when Japan went onto the modernization stage, you can see that Japan needed to expand. Japan expanded into the Southeast Asia area because this is where resources would be. Japan expanded into China, into Manchuria, because this is where land, Lebensraum would be. And so, Japan, fully almost 1 year before, December 7, 1941, our hero, my hero, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Let me show you a picture of Admiral Yamamoto. Admiral Yamamoto, he called in his high officers. For instance, Admiral Takijiro Onishi. Admiral Onishi was the developer idea of the kamikaze. he called in Vice Admiral Shigeru Fukudome, Air Fleet Commander. And he says, what can we do when we know that Japan must go to war eventually? Yamamoto had this brilliant idea of attacking Pearl Harbor, because he knew, after many times of contact with the West, he even served time as naval attaché in Washington, D.C. He knew about America's resolve too. And so, with this, Admiral Yamamoto had planned to hit America at Japan's primary target, Pearl Harbor. So it is at this time that about September 1941, he talked with his admirals. By January, we have this event, January 1941, originally discussed. By September, plan in operation in the way of staffing. And so, by November, we're ready to go. But we are getting ahead of the story a little bit. So let me talk to you a little bit more about planning. I would like to talk to you about some of the key staff officers that Admiral Yamamoto relied upon. He called in his operations officer. Operations officer, I would like you to show a picture of him.
Will we cut the lights down a little?
That's fair. This man's name, Commander Genda, G-E-N-D-A. Commander Genda, called in by Admiral Yamamoto. Yamamoto says, Genda, we are planning to hit Pearl Harbor. Shinjuanda. Genda most surprised, because after all, Pearl Harbor is over 5,000 miles away into the heart of American naval defenses. And so he was most surprised. And he says, sir, I shall study. And he studied for about 5 weeks. Then he come back with his report. He said, sir, it's possible. Very risky, but it's possible. And so, Genda makes several recommendations. Let me tell you about these recommendations. You see, Admiral Yamamoto was even thinking of making this a kamikaze type attack. In other words, yes, take our aircraft carriers over there and then have the pilots zoom up and bash the aircraft into the American battleships and American carriers. Why? Because he was thinking that perhaps if this is going to be a long war, he must make sure that the carriers come back to Japan. And if aircraft go and come back, he was afraid that American defensive planes will follow and attack our Japanese carriers. Genda, he cannot agree with this. So Genda was not a yes man. And Genda says, I respect your opinion, sir, but no, that is wrong. That is wrong. We must not sacrifice the best of our air pilots to go into battle and die the first day. This is going to be a long war, as you say. We must survive and have these pilots work out for future battles. And so he stopped that idea. Yamamoto bought that idea. Yes, we must go with trained pilots, but have them come back to the aircraft carrier. Genda, he studied this problem very seriously. He find out that Pearl Harbor very shallow. Hey, Pearl Harbor only about 44, 48 feet deep. Torpedo, aerial torpedo in those days. go down about 84 feet. Obviously, you know what happened. Huh? You drop torpedo, it go plop, and stuck in muck and mud, huh? And no more torpedo. And so, Genda researched this very thoroughly. He find out that Royal Air Force attacked Taranto Bay. And Taranto Bay only about 60 feet deep. And he said, now how did Royal Air Force do that? He researched, he find out Royal Air Force put extra fins on torpedo. Ah, very good. So if Royal Air Force can do that, we Japanese pilots, Japanese Air Force can do better. And so he had wooden fins. Wooden fins be put on the aerial torpedo. Now, you needed great training. And so, because Pearl Harbor is not only shallow, Pearl Harbor is also very narrow. In order to arm a torpedo go down 80 feet, then must go off about 300, 600 feet before it can arm itself. And so, when you have only about 1,200 feet from land to the battleship roll, you can see that pilots must do very, very good job of dropping at the right time, because they only have about 3 seconds to 5 seconds at most to arm torpedo to hit side of battleships. This Genda, he said, we must do serious training. And so with this, Genda says to Edwin Yamamoto, sir, I know just the man to train our pilots. And he bring in this man now. I show you a picture. Oh, incidentally, Commander Genda is still alive. Commander Genda became commanding general of the Japanese Army or Self-Defense Force, Ground Self-Defense Force. And so, Commander Genda is now retired general. Now, we want you to see this picture. This picture is of Commander Fuchida, Mitsuo Fuchida. Fuchida, one of top pilots in Japanese Air Force, Japanese Naval Air Force at that time. Commander Fuchida, over 5,000 combat hours, especially in China. And so, he became chief of the pilots going on to attack Pearl Harbor. He was our boss. Now, Fuchida, Genda, realized very hard training necessary. And so, with this, Yamamoto found a very nice place to train. For instance, he found that inland sea, near Kure, near Hiroshima, that is a shallow place too, about 60 feet depth. But there was a better place. After training there, we found in southern Japan, in Kagoshima. Kagoshima has bay much like Pearl Harbor, where you must release torpedo fast and move away from the target. This was almost like Pearl Harbor situation. So we trained very hard, morning, night, because we must perfect our torpedo tactics. We must perfect our high-level bombing tactics. We must perfect fighter tactics, all these things. We never questioned. We knew big project ahead. We did not know at that time this was going to be attack on Pearl Harbor, because commanders never give away that kind of information until almost at the very end, because you see, like Americans, when you have too much sake, our tongues go clackety-clack too. So, with this is Commander Fuchida. Incidentally, Commander Fuchida, after war, he became Christian missionary. Christian missionary. He made many visits to Pearl Harbor and Hawaii, but he died in the 1970s of natural causes, cancer. So, with this, Yamamoto needed much more information. And so, he had, I must show you another picture here. this man who was the task force commander. This man is Vice Admiral Nagumo, Chuichi Nagumo. Nagumo is what I would consider to be not so assertive, not so aggressive. Nagumo was type that if we have an objective, we have a mission, we do it by the book, and beyond that, do not go, do not exploit, because then you make the error of perhaps opening up yourself to counterattack too much. Nagumo was very much afraid that if his 6 carriers were to be discovered, then our 6 carriers might be bombed in return by American aircraft. And so we might lose many, many carriers, many, many men on the first day of battle. And so when the battle proceeded, and when Fuchida came after the second wave, he ran up, as you saw in Tora. He ran up to Admiral Nagumo and said, "Sir, where's third wave? Where's third wave?" And Nagumo asked Fuchida, have we hit all assigned targets? And of course, Fuchida had to say, "Yes, sir." Then we go home. This is the way Nagumo was. Nagumo should have exploited more, but did not. As we said, we must get more information according to Yamamoto. And so, this man, I would like you to see. Name, Ensign Yoshikawa. Ensign Yoshikawa. I would consider him to be one of the better spies during World War II. He was our master spy. Now, Yoshikawa, 9 months before Pearl Harbor, took the journey over to Hawaii, and he reported into the Japanese consulate as minor official, minor clerk. Now, this was one curious Japanese. The other Japanese consulate members could not figure him out. Because, as you are all aware, Japanese workers, when they report to work, they may report 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. Do they give up their job at 5 o'clock? Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard about Japanese work habits? They do not give up at 5 o'clock. They work and work and work until supervisor goes home first. And that may be something like 9 o'clock. But here is this man. He comes into work 11 o'clock in the morning. Then by 1 o'clock, he takes off from the consulate. Hey, how can we figure this man out? And yet nobody slapping on wrist. Well, this man, Yoshikawa, as spy, would take weekly trips. He would rent or go on a tourist ride, $10 an hour, something like that. Huh? And you know Hawaii, you go up 5,000 feet, 2,000 feet, you can see everything there. And so he would go close to the Pearl Harbor. He would have pilot go close to the Pearl Harbor area, look over. He could see all ships there. This man had photographic memory. He never put down on black and white pencil or paper. This man had it up here. After he would do this, he would go back to consulate, put everything down in code, and then through Japanese diplomatic code, this was being transferred back to Tokyo. Other things he did, to give you an idea. He would make believe he was a true Japanese gentleman in the sense of every night he would go out to have sake drinking, to drink sake. Now, in those days, above Pearl Harbor, there was a Japanese inn. He would go up there every night and he would drink and he would carouse. He would be there until all hours of the evening, until boss finally have to push him outdoor. He would do this 2 months, 3 months. Finally, boss says, leave him there. He will take care of himself. He knows how to get out. He is harmless. So this man, 5 o'clock in the morning, he would whip out his binoculars, and he was looking at all the ships, all activity down in Pearl Harbor. Again, nothing down in paper, up here. Again, all this sent back. He knew all weather reports, sent all of that back. He make believe he was Filipino busboy. He go up to Pearl Harbor Naval Commissioning Officers Club. He says, "Sir, I need job. Me Filipino." And of course, Americans don't know anything. And so he says, "Well, can you, busboy, what that? Go around, get all ashtray cleaned up, get beer mugs, everything, bring back to the kitchen." Oh, that's easy. And so he would do that. This man was very, very astute. As he goes to clean up the tables, he always knew American makeup. And so he would go to places where there were plenty of drink. And as he knew American sailors and officers, once they got 1, 2, 3 beers, the tongue will clack, huh? And so his big ear open all the time, and he would be cleaning up like this and knowing what was going on from day to day, week to week. All this information being sent to Tokyo. In those days, he could even go to the neck of the channel of Pearl Harbor. He make believe he fisherman, and he would cast out there and reel in. What was he going for? Not for fish. He wanted to know what bottom, what composition of that Pearl Harbor channel was like. You see, in this planning, they were going to bring in submarines. Very interesting kind of submarine. This would be baby, midget submarines, about 6 feet in width, about 80 feet in length. 2-man crew, 2 torpedoes only. If need be, these people would be kamikaze. They would ram the torpedo-laden submarine into big boats. Not destroyers, but carriers or cruisers. So there were 5 midget submarines that they are to bring in. We shall talk more about them in a few minutes. As planning continued, we see that they selected, Yamamoto selected this kind of route. You see where Japan is. You see where Kuril Island would be. This is where we gathered. Okay? We took northerly route, gradually angling towards Hawaii. Then we take another southeastward jaunt and come in to Oahu area, about 230 miles. Why this northerly route? In those days, you did not have circle route airplane going. Northerly route all the time be very, very severe weather. And so this is one area where even American forces did not patrol. This Yoshikawa knew, Genda knew through research. This, they found out planes hardly went north. American planes all went west, south. And so, Genda found out in 1932, Army-Navy war game. Army-Navy war game, U.S. Navy tried same thing. Coming from north, surprised Army and beat Army in that game. Genda knew all this. He says, why not try this also? Genda suggests December 7th. Why? Because they knew Sunday was always day of rest with Americans. So, this is the way it was. Now, we also see this map of Oahu. As you see, Pearl Harbor is very small. This is a small island. Lengthwise, from here to there, 40 miles. From here to here, widest place, 20 miles only. And so, through good work of our spy, we found these bases always full of activity. Pearl Harbor, there was Ford Island Naval Station. Hickam Field, Army Air Force, heavy bombers. Wheeler Field, fighters. Bellows Field, fighters. Barbers Point, Eva, Marine Corps Air Station. East Side, Kaneohe, Naval Air Station. All of these were researched by and studied by Yoshikawa. So we knew that these bases existed. We knew where these planes might very well come from. With the good work of Yoshikawa, we knew what ships were in Pearl Harbor already. We figured about 118 ships would be there. In reality, Navy sources say 96 ships there. We thought aircraft carrier would be there. Reality, aircraft carrier had gone out a week or so before. So they were not there. One curious thing, on the other side of Ford Island, on this side, if this is Battleship Row, on this side here, this one in particular, Battleship Utah. Battleship Utah. Utah was target ship only. In other words, all superstructure taken off. They put on wooden deck platform. From air, they would drop bombs filled with sand. And so it would penetrate the wooden deck, but it would not go beyond, it would not explode. We saw that, and we figured this is one of the aircraft carriers, and this is why Japanese pilots went for that. And this is why one midget submarine that went in fired their 2 torpedoes against the Utah, because we thought Utah was aircraft carrier. You see, Lexington was down south, Enterprise out there towards Midway and Wake, Saratoga back in California. Okay, so aircraft carrier is not there. All right, so let me proceed a little bit more. Let me talk to you about our route a little bit. As we say, we went up north, and we really did not have idea that it would still be Pearl Harbor. We had inkling, but we did not know for sure. In fact, when we left Hiroshima and Kagoshima, and all our ships came from various locations of Japan, we were given summer uniform. So summer uniform, something like 18 November, we figure, Philippines, Southeast Asia. Very good, warm. Okay, soon we clear Japan. Craft turned northward. Of course, we have to go into winter uniform. And so everybody think, oh, Alaska, Aleutians, Alaska. But by early December, especially December 1, when we refuel, and we have to refuel because of this long journey, over 5,000 miles, then come back again to Tokyo again, huh? Long journey, we have to refuel. Very difficult refueling job. Some of our men washed overseas, but we cannot stop to pick them up. There were sacrifices. So with this, we went on with this kind of a preparation, and by December 1, we knew it is going to be Pearl Harbor. Now, as we came towards Pearl Harbor area, as you probably heard or saw in Torah, message came, climb Mount Niitaka. That was a coded message saying, go for it, gentlemen, go for it. Our plans have not changed in Tokyo, go for it. All right. And so, with this, Edwin Nagumo opened up his secret orders. Secret orders say this: Nagumo, if you are spotted by 5 December, you must come back. If you are spotted by 6 December, you must make up your mind. If 7 December comes and you are spotted, you have no choice. You must attack. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Japanese customs. Night before attack, night before any battle, if it is possible, as it was possible then, Japanese always take scrub, scrub. We want to make ourselves very clean. We are going to meet our maker. I remember we all put on our best white underwear. Never mind this heart, Valentine, lovey kind underwear that some of you Americans may wear. Oh no, Japan, always serious. And in Japanese custom, it is thus that white means purity. White is godliness. And so, we all put on our white underwear. I remember putting on our best navy whites. Oh, we look very handsome. Very, very good looking. We all came down to hall like this, where we had our meal. For some, it may be our final meal, huh? And with this, I noted that there is head table there, and staff sits there. Commander, executive, staff officers there. I noted that you have, as is Japanese custom, a sake bottle over here with a little jigger next to it. All right? Every person has that. Now, in American customs, you always pour yourself a little light beer and you drink it yourself, huh? That's not Japanese custom. Japanese custom, you always pour for your
Dairy line 1, please.
So, I remember executive officer pour for commander, commander pour for executive officer. Staff officers do same thing. I pour to my man on the right, he pour to me, for me. Commander stand up, he says, Tenoika, Banzai! We all respond, Banzai! Executive to commander, commander to executive, staff to staff, myself to my friend to me. Stand up again. Tenoika, Banzai! We all respond, Banzai! Executive to commander. This is very, very common thing. Japanese style, always 3 times. Even in marriage, san kudo, you do it 3 times. And so, with this, we had a very, very nice beverage type party, but this was our final meal. I remember that meal very well. It was steak. Steak, ladies and gentlemen. Japanese in those days do not have steak. They may have as best food fish, but steak never. So you know it is going to be a very special event. I remember also dessert. Usually Japanese style dessert, apple or fruit in season. This time ice cream. Very, very good. I remember we all say our final goodbyes. We sing our final song. Then we go upstairs to our individual wardrooms and we write our letter of goodbye. Dear Mama, dear Papa, or dear sweetheart, or dear wife, tomorrow I'm going to attack Pearl Harbor. Please think kindly of me. Give my best regards to family and to all the family friends. Your loving son, and so on. Then, as is true Japanese custom, we clip our fingernails. Clip our fingernails. We also clip a little bit of our hair. This is less vestiges of our mortal self. We put this into the letter, and in true Japanese style, we do it ceremonial way. From corner to corner, you fold your letter. And then you tuck it into your envelope with the address on the envelope. We do not do it from bottom to top as many Westerners may do. So, with this, let me show you another picture as we are going on towards Pearl Harbor. Here are our brother pilots. You see, now we are very close to Hawaii, very close to Oahu. This is the night of December 6th, the night we had our farewell party. We are listening to the radio. As you see, this man, this pilot is making believe he is doing the hula, okay? And you can see that he is having a joyous time over there. All right. So, this is the kind of pilots that manned the planes on December 7, 1941. I mentioned submariners, huh? How many baby submarine with people? 5. How many in each submarine? 2. 5 times 2 is 10. How many submariners do you see in this picture?
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's another one down here, 9. We cannot see because of the light. Okay? 9. What happened to number 10? No. No. I shall tell you, he was not there taking pictures. No. I am going to tell you about number 10 man. He is a very, very interesting man. All right? Now 9 die now. Number 10 does not die. In fact, he is still alive today in Tokyo. Name, Ensign Sakamaki. Kazuo Sakamaki. Very interesting fellow. Sakamaki had his midget submarine, and night before, they do same thing as we do. Take a bath in their big mama submarine. Because these baby submarines were strapped on to mama submarines. And they came all the way from Tokyo out to Hawaii, and about 40 miles outside of Pearl Harbor, they unstrap, and they then go towards Pearl Harbor. Okay? Night before, same thing. But these people are true kamikaze. They are called the cherry blossom kids. Cherry blossom kids. As you know, cherry blossom is very sweet smelling. Cherry blossom is very beautiful. Cherry blossom, as you know, in Washington Basin, is very temporary thing. By 1 week's time, gone. Huh? Beautiful one day, next day, gone, dead. So they consider themselves. They are beautiful while alive and able to do the emperor's mission, but the final moment is death. These people take bath and they spray cologne on them. They douse cologne on them. Then they put on their fundoshi, which is Japanese style of jockstrap, and they board the submarine. Submarine very narrow. Submarine very hot in there, this Michi submarine. And so Sakamaki says, cast off. And so they cast off. But now, pretty soon submarine is going towards Tokyo. Oh, what's the matter here? Here is number 10 man, Sakamaki. All right? Not a bad looking man, huh? Very young looking man. He was about 25 years old. Sakamaki. Okay? All right. And so, Sakamaki notes that his gyroscope not working. And so, he says to his assistant, hey, Inagaki, go bring those ballast from behind to forward. Well, poor Inagaki, enlisted man, he must go back there and get the 20-pound ballast, huh? Then, almost like the shinning up the canted submarine deck, and bring time after time all this ballast. Now everything keel okay. Sakamaki move it around. Now going eastward towards Pearl Harbor. Now okay. But before you know it, crash! You see, Sakamaki is like that proverbial, as you know, Joe Batifsk. Some of you, I think, old enough to know Joe Batifsk. He is that little bitty man, huh, with raggedy black clothing in Al Caps, Little Abner comic strip, huh, no longer showing. Okay, and wherever he went, there was this black cloud. Wherever black cloud he went, there was disaster all over. It was like Sakamaki. And so now Sakamaki is up on this coral reef up there, right outside Pearl Harbor Channel. Oh, what to do? All right. And so with this, he says, Inagaki, get up forward and bring those back. Woo, poor Inagaki. You know, only 6 feet and about this 80 feet long. He had to go up there, get all the ballast and bring it all to the back like this. Now he's sweating, like you say, like a what? Like a greased pig. Okay, like that. Okay, finally everything back, and then Sakamaki guns it like he would gun your car out of a snowbank. You know what happened? Disaster again. The battery give out all this bad, dangerous fumes, okay? Too much exertion on battery. And so whole submarine filled with dangerous, toxic fumes. Both unconscious now. So while Battle of Pearl Harbor going on now, they are floating. They are floating like this, okay? And current catches their submarine, and pretty soon they are on the south point. They go by Hanoma Bay and the south point, and now they're on the other side, and now where you have Bellows Field, all right? Where Waimanalo and Bellows Field would be, where much rain came the last New Year's Eve. This is where they finally got caught on the reef over there again, but both unconscious now. Finally, Inagaki awakened. Inagaki says, where is that stupid commander of mine? So he looks around, but he doesn't look too hard. He says, that son of a gun, he must have escaped. And so he says, well, there is conning tower. So he goes up the conning tower, opens it up, he looks out there, says, oh, it's not too far, it might be about 500 yards away. Not too far, I can do it. So he dives. But toxic fumes really got him, and all this exertion going up, back, and forth, and the submarine must have done it to him, because Inagaki does drown. Okay? So there's that number 9 person drowned. Now, Sakamaki gets up a little while later. He said, Inagaki, where the heck are you? You know, stronger words than that, I'm sure. That no good man. He says, he escaped. And so he looks up there, here, conning tower open. He looks out there, he says, yeah, no Inagaki. That son of a gun. Okay, so he dives, swims, dives, breast swims. Finally, he collapses on beach. As soon as he collapses, here is National Guardsman from Hawaii with rifle against his head. He becomes prisoner number 1. And you know what? You know what? Very interesting. U.S. Army bring Ensign Sakamaki, prisoner number 1, all the way to this area. He spent over 2 years in a very, very familiar place for most of you. Then Camp McCoy, now Fort McCoy. He spent over 2 years in south coast of Fort McCoy. One time I tried very hard to find that original cabin, no longer there, okay? And anyway, he was there, but I guess it was too cold for him because pretty soon they sent him down to Texas, to Crystal City. If you like, later on I have a letter from Sakamaki, not written to me, but written to another person. Very interesting letter. All right, Sakamaki, as I said, is still alive. Sakamaki is a regular visitor. He comes to Pearl Harbor and visits. All right? He wrote a book about his experiences, but not too exciting book. I read it. This is the kind of submarine we are talking about. As you see, it is not very big. All right? This submarine could travel about 100 miles, speed of 23 knots, two-member crew, torpedo here, torpedo there, okay? And so, not very big, okay? And Japan did use submarines in World War II, this kind of submarine. They attacked even Sydney Harbor during World War II. What happened to other 4 submarines? Here is one submarine that did get into Pearl Harbor. This submarine got into Pearl Harbor very early. As early as 3:30 in the morning. As early as 3:30 in the morning, this submarine sneaked in. You see, you had the Kondo, a minesweeper, coming in. And they open up the submarine gates. And they allow Kondo to come in. Now, they say, close it. But another one says, 10 minutes later, another ship is coming in, so let them remain open. Pretty soon, Antares comes in. Antares, almost like a freighter type ship coming in. Behind it follows this submarine. Coast Guard PBY spot, they immediately radio down to 14th Naval District Headquarters, and Naval Headquarters say, confirm, confirm. All right? Then this one go in and go on the other side of Ford Island and go to the bottom. But only 44, 50 feet, so not much depth pressure. Okay, then when Pearl Harbor battle occurs, this comes up. Now it is straight with Utah. Utah is big battleship, and they think it is carrier. And so they fire torpedoes, but torpedoes miss. Okay? And so, what happened? The destroyer Monahan, see this? They come charging in, and they ram it, and they send depth charges, and this is what happened. As you see, the ripples on the side of the submarine. So this is another submarine. That's number 2. All right? Then we have number 3 submarine out there in front of Pearl Harbor, where you have the channel, and this is about 6:30 in the morning. Okay? And of course, the announcement was already made that there are submarines in this area. And so the destroyer Ward, W-A-R-D, was making patrol. This was their area of patrol. Ward was manned, they tell me, by East St. Paul, North St. Paul, reserve type people who were called to federal duty. And the officer on deck see that, and his enlisted men see that. Officer on deck says, "Get the captain on board. Get the captain on deck." And the captain awakened, brings up on deck 6:30 in the morning. Captain out the bridge says that. He says, "Fire!" Number 1 gun, boom, fire, huh? Miss. Number 3 gun, fire, bang! Number 3 gun, boom, goes in through middle of the conning tower, and then Ward sideswipe it, throw out depth charges. That was end of that submarine. Now, another submarine, they think they got outside, right outside, near that Ward area, number 4. Number 5, they never did find out, but they think it is all gone too, okay? And certainly, on the Tokyo records, the only one that came back alive would be Ensign Sakamaki. Okay? Our hard luck man. All right. So here is Sakamaki's submarine right offshore from Wanganalo, Gallows Field area. All right. So here is picture of other submarines. Japanese major submarines. At one time I count over 80 submarines in there, in Nagasaki. All right? And as I say, they use Japanese major submarines without too much success. They use it in attack on Sydney Harbor ships also. And also in that Ulithi, what is that great big lagoon over there with many ships in there?
Ulithi.
Ulithi, right there. They use them too, over there. All right? So, okay. We are moving ahead now, and as early as 6:30 in the morning, as you know, the alarm, by 5 o'clock in the morning, alarm is off, and we pilots already in our outfit, all brand new underwear. Not last night's underwear, new underwear, because we are going to attack, okay? All right, and so by 6:30, first plane goes, we go off. 353 planes in total, in 2 waves, go off. All right? So, you might want to also, for those who are taking notes, want to follow the sequence of events. As I say, Admiral Yamamoto originated attack plans, Genda Fuchida key officers, Vice Admiral Nagumo Task Force Commander, 10 through 18 November, we sortie out of Kure, and we gather at Tankan Bay in the Kuriles. How many? 6 carriers, 2 battleships. Look at 2 heavy cruisers, 1 light cruiser, 9 destroyers, 3 submarines, 8 tankers, total 31 ships. 31 ships. Okay? 25 November we depart on northerly route, as I said. 3 December we refuel. Some refuel 1, but by 3 everything completed. 7 December, 353 aircraft. 7:55, first bomb fall on Oahu and on the ships over there. All right. So now I have taken you to this point where our planes are now coming into Oahu. We are in beautiful formation coming in. So let me just doff my gear here a little bit and see what the Americans are doing. So I'm going to switch gears now and talk about the Americans. At Opana Point, this is near Kahuku, northerly direction of Oahu. There were 2 enlisted men, U.S. enlisted men, 2 soldiers. Privates Lockhart and Private Elliott. And radar was in its infancy at that time. The radar in the high area there, beaming to the north. All right. About 7 o'clock, they first pick up the traces of aircraft coming in. They start fiddling around with their tuners, and pretty soon they say, Sarge, get over here, see what this is all about. And they come, Sergeant fiddles around too, and he says, Lockhart, get on the horn and call Fort Shafter. Now we got planes coming in from the north. Okay? And Lockhart does so. Well, on the other side, there's a sleepy second lieutenant. And Saturday night was not a lonely night for him. All right? And he had a good time. He had an excellent time. All right? And perhaps he realized he was going to be off duty in a few minutes. And he says, are you guys sure? He said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. They're coming in fast now. And so he said, I'll tell you what. Confirm it and call back in 15 minutes. Okay? Well, now more and more planes are coming in. The whole scope is filled with these reports of planes coming in. And thereby, the sergeant says, call them up, Locker, tell them about more planes coming in. He does so. Now there's a old cagey warrant officer on there. The duty officer time has switched now. There's a warrant officer there. And the warrant officer says, are you guys sure? He says, yes, sir. And he says, well, let me know. Let me think about it. And he thought about it, and he had remembered reading in the bulletin the day before that 13 B-17 Flying Fortresses were coming in from Hamilton Field, California. All right? So he said, that's it. These are the Flying Fortresses that have been blown off course a little bit. Now instead from the northeast, they're coming from straight from due north. Okay? So, okay. So aren't you guys about time for chow now? And the chow truck come in at 7:30? And they said, yes, sir. I said, well, shut down now. Shut down. Go on and get your chow. Opportunity missed again. Okay? Pilots, as Fuchida in his report said, then swung westward. Then some swept right through the middle of Oahu. Some went the other side, the Waianae side came in. Okay? And they came in attack. About 7:55. High-level bombers, Fuchida could not believe his eyes as he saw what was before him. And so he sends back the message. Tow, tow, tow. Okay? That meant we have come upon the enemy, and as planned, it is a complete surprise. Atmospheric conditions were excellent, so that his message was heard even back in Tokyo simultaneously by Admiral Yamamoto. All right? And as soon as they got over Pearl Harbor, then Fuchida sent his second message. Tora, 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 means go for it now, everybody. All right? And so with that, then high-level bombers came down a little bit lower and started releasing their bombs. At the same time, the torpedo bombers came in, and they did their tremendous work as far as hitting all those ships on Battleship Row. The saddest one, of course, is the one that you know of as the Arizona. Here, the Japanese had outfitted a 1,500-pound shell casing filled with TNT, and filled with made so that it would penetrate the decks. And this 1,500-pound bomb went through the deck and went into the area next to the magazine. And with a horrendous roar, they said within 9 minutes' time, that ship went down. And within it, over 1,100 Marines and sailors were entombed. Like that, snuffed out like that. Okay? And as far as the Japanese pilots were concerned, they were simply amazed at what they saw. They saw and it was almost simultaneous as they hit the airfield, because they wanted to catch the aircraft down there so that they don't come up and challenge them, you see. And so when they saw the planes all lined up, it was simply out of this world as far as Fuchida and Lieutenant Murata and others who did the strafing. They couldn't believe their eyes. In Wheelfield, for instance, as they came through, with one bullet would go through 3 aircraft, and 3 aircraft would be puffed up, going up in smoke, and so on. And so Wheelfield was hit. Hickam Field was hit. Eva, Barbers Point, Marine Corps Air Station, all that same place, okay? That was hit. Kaneohe Naval Air Station was hit, all right? And then Bellows Field was hit. So all those places were hit. Then those that were fighters, Zero fighters, went over towards Schofield Barracks and strafed that whole area there, because that was the center of the 24th and 25th Divisions, okay? And so with that, the war came to be a tremendous surprise to Americans located there. And with that, I should like to recount to you, see, I wasn't a Japanese pilot up there, I hope you realize that. This was all a role play, all right? And so I was a youngster. I was in the junior high, 8th grade at that time. I was very, very much involved in current events and all those things. And my father had just come back from Japan. Let's say if war occurred December the 7th, my father got back about November, well, about 3 weeks prior. Again, the last ship coming back. So we were very, very much aware of what was going on with the negotiations and all that. We were very much up in the air about that and very concerned. All right. So here I am now. I'm having breakfast. And like everybody says, I know exactly where I was when Kennedy was shot, when the news came to me when Kennedy was shot, and so on. Well, I go back to Pearl Harbor. And so with this, I was seated. The rest of the family was asleep, okay? And I had to get up early and go on and play with my friends. And so I was seated in the kitchen at the table eating my breakfast. And I remember to this day what I was eating, okay? I was eating a bowl of Kellogg's cornflakes. I know that. I know that much, okay? And I overlooked to the right, and we were no more than 3 miles away from Wheeler Field. And then there is the Waianae Range, and there is a beautiful low mountain pass called Kole Kole Pass over there. Right below Kole Kole Pass is Schofield Barracks, home of the 25th Infantry Division today. Beyond that is Lualua, which is a naval ammunition depot. So it's a very military area. All right? And as I look towards there, hey, I see about 15, 18 beautifully formed in formation coming through Kole Kole Pass. I said, my God, I was thinking to myself, boy, that looks good. All right? And they did not go towards Schofield Barracks at that time. They were going towards Wheeler Field. And I followed that, and Wheeler Field is adjacent to Schofield, so I know exactly where. The distance is not anything. So as they came through, they went up a little bit, and I said, wow, they must be playing Army-Navy war games. We were very familiar with those in that time. And then a lead plane starts going down. I said, my God, what a beautiful dive. And others started following, and then it pulls up, and as it pulls up, I see this pellet-like thing coming down. I said, my God, they're making a horrible mistake. The Navy is attacking the Army. No one has thought about that. And I see the planes going up. I see the hangars going up. I see the planes being wrecked. I see all of these things that create the symptoms of war, as one might consider it. And by golly, no more have I thought that. Had I thought that, then I hear, of course, the explosions coming into my ears, okay? And I said, my God, what's happening here? Everything's gone crazy. And so I ran outside at that particular moment because I hear a plane coming over my home. I look up, and sure enough, there is the canopy that's open. There's the cloth helmet with the goggles up there, with the Snoopy's, what do you call this? Scarf, yeah, flying off in the wind, all right? And my neighbor was, waving like that. He thought I was a friend, all right? And here, I know it's great big meatballs, red balls of the symbols of Japan. I said, my God, this is war, this is war. I run back in, turn on the radio before I awaken the family, and of course the announcer is going crazy by this time. He's saying, all servicemen return to your bases, all servicemen return to your bases. Japanese are attacking Pearl Harbor and all other bases. All servicemen return to your bases, return to your bases. This is no joke, no joke. All right? And so this was the way the war came to us. And of course, every time a plane came over, in the evening especially, of course I would duck underneath my bed, thinking that the bed would protect me from machine gun bullets. I saw all the dogfights that were going on at that time. And dogfights they were, because at least 2 pilots, as you saw in Tora, they were Lieutenants Welch and Lieutenant Taylor. And they played poker all night long in Wheeler Field, And then they said, well, it's too late to go back to Haleiwa, which is no more than 7, 8 miles down towards the beach. They said, well, let's sleep it off over here. And of course, when the bombing started off in Wheeler Field, they ran outside and saw what was going on. They immediately telephoned, a secret fighter base, a small fighter base in Haleiwa. All right? And they said, get our planes ready, we're coming down. And within 15 minutes time, they were down there. All right? They got on board, they flew off, took off. And I think Welch came down with about 4 or 4.5 planes, and Taylor came down with about 2.5 planes, something like that. But they were very, very active as far as the fighting went on. Others, of course, they were coming in from the carriers coming in. Of course, they didn't know what was going on, and those pilots were a lot of times knocked off, by our naval gunners. All right. So that was the way it was at the Pearl Harbor thing, and I've got many more things to tell you about what happened over there and on the ships, but maybe this might be the end of it. Damage to the ships. 18 ships were sunk, were seriously damaged. The Arizona, the Oklahoma, the Utah, as I said, destroys casting downs were lost. West Virginia, California, Nevada, beached. All right, Tennessee, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Helena, Raleigh, Honolulu, Shaw were damaged. 188 planes were destroyed. 196 Army, 92 Navy, 96 Army, 92 Navy, and so on and so on. All right. Well, the thing that is, of course, interesting is this, to me anyway. Look at the Japanese losses. Very, very light for a big operation like this. All right. 29 planes were lost. Okay. Out of 353. And one bomber sub, usually holding about 80 personnel. All right. 5 major submarines. They lost 55 airmen. 9 major submarine crew, okay, crew members. 1 plane did come into our town of war there and narrowly missed the power station. And the pilot was pretty much embalmed, pretty much involved in fire all over his body, and he became a victim of being put into the powder's grave there. All right, so this is my report to you as far as the attack on Pearl Harbor is concerned. And I shall be happy to try to respond to your questions if you have any. So, yes, sir.
I've been over to the Pearl Harbor twice, and I'm an old Navy man, an old carrier man. And I watched the Japanese come out there and look at that monument. What are they thinking? Can you give me some insight?
I wish I could, because I do have that. But for many of them, they are too young. And they don't know what's going on as far as it is something that's like a history textbook that's got off. Okay? And you must remember that with the Article 9 as far as the Constitution is concerned, and with their way of life today, the economy being as good as it is and so on, feelings for war are at a very minimal stage at this time now. And so it is not something that is one that brings up all kinds of patriotic feelings or anything of that nature. It is interesting, however, that you have had Japanese pilots return, and I have a videotape of 6 Japanese pilots who came in back in 1983, and of course everything is in Japanese, but I'm in the process of translating that right now. And one of the interesting things that they said in that interview was that one would think that, okay, if you were from the battleship, if you were from the carrier Akagi, or Hiryu, or Soryu, or Zuikaku, or Shokaku, and so on. There were 6 carriers, okay, that you had certain ships to go after, right? That wasn't it. They said they were given zones to go over. And they followed the zonal attacks. So if the battleship was in their zone, they would go for that battleship. But others, no. Okay? So.
Was
Yes,
your
sir.
father a citizen at that time?
No, my father's always, he was an alien. He could not become a citizen.
Did you folks get interned then?
No, because you see, that's a good point. In mainland America, as you know,
Yeah, the niece.
over 112,000 were interned in these camps, okay? But in Hawaii, this is what happened, okay? There was a great pressure, even coming from Secretary of the Navy, Frank Knox, okay? To get these guys out of here and get them away from this war zone because they are dangerous, okay? But there was a person there by the name of General Emmons, General Delos C. Emmons, who replaced General Short, who became a victim of the Pearl Harbor thing. And General Emmons said, I've studied this. He says, we have at least 160,000 Japanese and Japanese Americans. What do you propose we do? Take a valuable shipping and ship 160,000 of these people to California and fence to all these other camps, okay, and create havoc and all kinds of chaos. Suppose our ships get torpedoed and so on. What may happen to our own over there as prisoners and so forth. Another suggestion was put them on the island of Molokai. See, that's a leper island. Well, can you figure out what happened to 160,000 of them, which is not generally only have 8,000 people on that island, okay? And so he said, General Edwin said no, and at that time, most of your skilled craftsmen, your electricians, your carpenters, your plumbers, your painters, all those people were Japanese backgrounded, okay? And he says, I can use these people as defense workers. And that's what happened. And of course, we were always under suspicion, right? And as you know, by 1943, we were so much under suspicion that we began petitioning the president through General Emmons and so on, all the way up there, to allow Japanese Americans to volunteer for the U.S. Army, okay? And so based on that, and based on the good work prior to that of the 100th Infantry Battalion, which was a federally National Guard type situation that arose, and they did their training here at Fort McCoy, Camp McCoy then, okay, before they went on to Europe. And they had done such good work. And so they formed the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. And thereby, that's how they tried to, that's how Japanese Americans tried to prove their loyalty to America.
How are you treated at school?
At school, fine, because as you know, in Hawaii, Caucasians are in the minority.
That regimental combat team, or battalion, was the most decorated in the whole Army. A lot of the soldiers in that went AWOL out of the hospitals to get back into combat.
That's true.
I worked right after World War II, and I got out of the service. I delivered mail with Sam Shimata, and he was in that outfit. And we were delivering the Christmas mail, and we had drifts about 4 feet high, and I don't think Sam was over 5 feet high. And we split the route between us. And I tried to beat that little son of a gun. I never did. But the thing in talking to him, and I grew up around here, I was born and raised right practically where we're sitting. In talking to him, he told me what happened to his family, because he was from Southern California. His family was fruit growers.
I know Sam.
Do you know Sam?
I know Sam.
Is he still alive?
Yes, he is.
Marvelous guy. What I could not believe, and I still marvel at it, he told me what happened to him and his family and his friends, and no animosity. They accepted it. It was unbelievable. I still marvel to this day.
Yeah, that is a part of the Japanese trait that even Nisei, I'm a Nisei, in other words, a Japanese American, an American of Japanese ancestry, okay? And we have been passed on the trait that is called in Japanese shikata ga nai, which means can't be helped, okay? And that's a part of the Japanese Stoicism too, you see. But along with that, we have another trait that was taught us, and that was a trait of gambare. And gambare means never say die, see. It may be not to your best right now, but don't give up, because someone is going to turn around. And so many people, of course, pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and they got to be much better citizens after that. Yes, sir.
Could you kind of explain the psyche of these kamikaze people?
Psyche?
Yeah, I mean...
That's the same thing as trying to explain the psyche of the Hezbollah, for instance. The terrorists of today, okay? All right, same thing. Japanese, from the time they were born, in those days, were brought up with the feeling that, with the teaching that to die for the emperor was the most glorious thing out. And that when you die, your soul is never ending. Your soul is going to be placed in Yasukuni Jinja, Yasukuni Shrine, which is the same thing as the Arlington Heights. All right? And that brings to mind this. I did a little work in this area of Japanese battle flags. Okay? And we were able to get 3 Japanese battle flags back to the original owner's family. Okay? All right, we've received letters back from them now. It is simply, it brings tears to your eyes when you realize how much they feel for the flag that represents not only themselves and their family, but the nation. And so, this one particular flag, for instance, was given to a man by the name of Asato, and he came from Okinawa, Japan. And so, he was killed in the Battle of the Philippines on the 15th of June, 1945. And so, the family, after that, even took trips down to Mindanao, where he was killed, because that was the last report they got, to try to find any vestiges of this man, of their father. Okay? They couldn't find a thing. And so in the meantime, the flag that was given to him had been resting up there in this friend of mine's attic, okay, in one of these chests. And one day he said, Bud, he says, at a meeting, he said, you know, I've got these 3 flags. They've got some printing on them. I wonder if you can do something about translating them for me. I said, well, bring them over. Let me take a look at it. And so he did. And out of that, we returned the flag to Okinawa, Japan. I've got a response now from Okinawa, Japan itself, where they have a picture, a newspaper picture of this man, his family, receiving that flag back. And I got a very, almost it brings tears to your eyes about how the family was so grateful in getting this flag back, because it was the last reminder of their father. Because they had taken trips down to the Philippines to try to find the remains of the man's bones and so on. They couldn't. We tried desperately through this American veteran friend of mine to try to recount and find out where he was in action at that time. We couldn't find. It was in the Mount Apo area, but we couldn't find exactly where it would be. And of course, it would be like an impossible thing to find his remains today. But that's the way it is. The other flag was returned to a person in Saitama, Japan. And the third flag was like a naval flag, very proud for Marine, okay? And in that had all the Japanese names, Tanaka, Matsuyama, Matsuoka, and that kind of stuff, but no addresses. Okay? So it's like finding Smith and Jones and Johnson and so on your flag. Okay? But these flags were important to them because on the last night before they left for the army or for battle and so on, the friends would gather and put down messages of good hope. And that represented the family, the village, the country, and so that brings me to this flag here. See, this is the kind of flag that was very probably a flag for a small unit. And here are your threads are tied on to a staff, all right? So this is not an individual flag, all right? I don't have any individual flag. The ones that I had, we returned them. And the one, the Marine, the naval flag, no addresses. And you know what they said? The Home Ministry said what they will do is they will keep it in Yasukuni Shrine for a year. And after that, they will burn it because then the soul will be satisfied with the remains coming up in the form of smoke. All right. Then too, we have this kind of memorabilia of World War II. All right. This is called a senninbai. It means 1,000-inch needle sash. Okay. And the Japanese had that kind of a spirit, in which it said that this would be bound around their tummy. Individual flags would be bound around their tummy, because Japanese believed the tummy was the domicile of your soul. Okay?
Scott Johnson, line 1, please. Scott Johnson, line 1.
It's funny if they'd called for Toyota. All right, but what they would do is to have maybe the wife or the mother stand at a corner and beg people, other women especially, to please stop and put in a little red dot in there with your needle and thread. And the needle and thread will be right there. Because this to them represented home. It represented the fact that 1,000 people cared enough about you to stop by and put in a little hope for you. All right? And so Japanese, when they went to battle, a lot of time would have a battle flag around their tummy. And that's where these flags came from that were returned to Japan. They were taken off the dead bodies of these soldiers. All right. A question here.
The tanks that are behind Pearl Harbor there, they were up on top of the hill. How did they miss them?
Okay, they did not miss them. After the war, of course, our naval strategists and historians and so on, everybody was interested about what happened during Pearl Harbor and how it all came about. And of course, the man they tried to get right away would be Commander Fuchida. Okay? And Fuchida was asked time and again about this. Fuchida and other admirals have always said this. Yes, we knew they were there. You can't miss it because it's obvious right there, okay? Just like you were seeing the dome from above. All right. And so it said, we did not go for them because we were assigned our zones of attack, right? And we only had so many minutes in the air. We only had so many bombs. We only had so much ammunition, okay? And another way to look at it, they said, was this. If we had gone after those tanks during the attack, this would have clouded the whole area. Pearl Harbor, as you know, is very small. It would have just blanketed the whole area with black, acrid smoke. And we would not be able to see our targets. Also, they asked them, well, why didn't you do it as a final memento before you took off back to your ships, to your aircraft carriers? And they said, well, if we had done so, remember now, we had to take pictures of our attack. And we could not have taken good pictures of our attack to see the results of our attack and so. But true it is that is considered to be, naval strategists always consider that to be one of the key mistakes of the Japanese attack. That had they gone after the oil tanks there, they could have crippled the U.S. Navy for a long time because the oil was there, and the oil was there to supply the U.S. naval ships to keep on going out, especially submarines, to go out there and cut through the Japanese supply lines going from Japan down to Southeast Asia, especially Philippines and so forth. Yes, sir?
How about the repair area?
Well, they're trying to get those repair areas, as you know, in that 10-10 dock area and so on, but there are only so many bombs, as we said, that's what happened. They had to go for the biggies. That's what happened. As far as that's concerned. Yes, sir?
You said that Admiral Yamamoto decided to attack Pearl Harbor. Were there any options considered, any other options considered prior to that decision?
Well, the other option would be, other options they talked about at that time would be to try, they knew from the time of turn of the century, from 1904-05, you know, the Russo-Japanese War, they knew that the main enemy would be the United States, because if Japan wanted to be supreme in the Pacific, who is going to be their enemy? It's going to be the United States. And so their strategy was to try to go in against Pearl Harbor and create damage, and then kind of wait outside Pearl Harbor with their submarines. And as the ships came out, then try to sink those ships, U.S. ships. But by the time they came out closer to Japan, the bigger, larger Japanese naval task force would be able to swallow up and destroy the rest of the American ships coming over towards Japan. That was the kind of tactic that they were thinking about as far as that. They, of course, wanted to get down to Southeast Asia, Philippines, Indonesia, especially because of the oil, all right? But they knew that they had to cripple the U.S. Navy because that would be the major task force against them coming in from the west, coming in from the east rather. And so Pearl Harbor was decided by, Pearl Harbor was to be a point of attack as far as Yamamoto was concerned. Yes, sir?
Comment. When I was in the Navy, a lot of the Pearl Harbor veterans were very upset because the Navy was so embarrassed by Pearl Harbor that the word went out that they didn't fight back. And I know when I went in, we thought that a lot of the Pearl Harbor people were yellow because they didn't fight back. That's what we were told. And of course, then after we met the veterans and they started telling us how they were manning the guns and doing
That's
what
right.
they could and so
That's
forth.
right.
But that was what a lot of us people that were in the service at the time thought.
Well, there were a lot of rumors and so on, and misinformation and so on at that time, but it is true, as records will show, and as the Japanese pilots have said, that they were very surprised that within, even after the first successful attack of 5 or 6 minutes, by the time 6 minutes had gone by, they were receiving flak, they were receiving even small gunfire coming up from the areas of the Marines and the U.S. Army and so on. So they did fight back, yeah. Yes, sir.
Admiral Yamamoto was against this whole thing, as I understand it, simply because, one, he had been to Washington for a long time. He'd gone to school, I believe at Harvard.
Harvard.
He'd gone to school there, and one of the things that impressed him the most in this country was when he toured through Texas and saw the oil fields and knew the industrial base of this country, and he thought it was insanity that we couldn't do it unless it was done bang, slat, and that was it.
Yeah, his thinking was not deep enough on that, because he was of the opinion that if we hit Pearl Harbor hard enough, if we make it a crippling effect over there, then by just holding back all our goods in the Southeast Asia and keeping up our trade in the Southeast Asia and getting all oil from here, we will make America become tired of war. And they will finally negotiate with us and perhaps have a negotiated settlement. And
Was
so,
it Nagumo that said that, I'm afraid we have awakened the sleeping bear?
no, that was Yamamoto.
That was
Yamamoto. But that was his thought about that, you see. And he wanted to make sure that if it's going to be a hit, let it be a very, very good crippling effect. And then, as I said, he wasn't really thinking hard enough to know the American mentality. America doesn't give up either. Do we? Okay. Yes, sir, Professor Deutsch.
First of all, I'd like to emphasize especially the point you made a moment ago about the importance of the oil. There have been a number of studies recently which hold actually that it would have been better to hit only the oil. But if they had kept if the Japanese had knocked out the oil, there would have been no Midway, no operation in the Carolines in March, and certainly not the Battle of the Bismarck Sea, which are all the great turning points in the situation. But if I may ask for a little patience, I have two stories to tell which demonstrate that in spite of all the bitterness of that war, there were elements of gallantry and chivalry on both sides. One story may be known to you. It's about 4 years ago, there was a report in the papers of a meeting of the nurses American nurses who had been in a certain Japanese prison camp, the reunion in San Francisco. And they invited the head of that camp, the Japanese commander, who had been so kind to them and so considerate. They wanted to have him join in their festivities. The other story is one you won't know, but I think it's an extraordinary instance of chivalry on the side of an American leader. In 1968, I was a member of a mission of 18 which went to Europe to study the consequences of the Soviet action in Czechoslovakia. And the head of that mission was Admiral Arleigh Burke. Many of you know as the head of the American Navy for 5 or 6 years in the last part of the 50s. And Arleigh had just come back from Japan, and he and I were seatmates on the way from London to Berlin. And I said, what have you been doing in Japan? He said, well, I was invited to address the officers of the Association of Retired or ex-Japanese naval officers. And I said, well, you tell me about that. He said, yes, it was really a very moving occasion. There were about 5,000 officers. When I came onto the platform with the chairman of that meeting, he said, gentlemen, before we have hear the address of Admiral Burke, I'd like to have us all now conclude the ceremony he had on his flagship for our own lost comrades in such and such an action. And then Arleigh told me what the action was. There had been an operation in the late afternoon. The sun was shining in the eyes of the Japanese who were coming through a strait. The Americans were on the other side. The Americans let loose. The Japanese never could fire a single shot. 2 or 3 Japanese ships were sunk. Thereupon he called together his officers and he had a memorial ceremony for the Japanese who had gone down under these one-sided circumstances. I think that story should be written up somewhere and told to help us understand each other much better.
Thank you, Professor Deutsch. And this is a good time for me to bring this letter of Ensign Sakamaki. All right. Let me read you this letter. Very, very interesting letter. I think you'll enjoy it. Remember, this goes back to 1969, so it's not current in that sense. Dear Mr. Haney. Haney was one of the officers on the destroyer Ward. Okay. Dear Mr. Haney, thank you so much for your kind letter dated January the 23rd. Also, I was thinking that I was informed from Mr. Murokawa. When I read your letter, I recall a Japanese old proverb, yesterday's enemy is today's friend. And I was pleased with your warm-hearted friendship, which was same with me. On the day of December 7, 1941, I was trying to enter Pearl Harbor, operating my midget submarine. But the compass of my ship was no working, and also my efforts to enter a harbor was interfered by American 2 patrol ships, which I judged as destroyers. It is very fatal, interesting thing that you were ensign of the destroyer, and I was ensign of the submarine. Also, it is very thrilling for us to say as follows. 1, it was very easy to me to sink the destroyers because I had caught the destroyers in my telescope and could launch powerful torpedoes if I wanted to do so. My target was aircraft carrier or battleship in the harbor, so I have endured to launch the torpedoes for the destroyers. If I could not endure the interfering by destroyers, your ship might be sunk. 2, destroyers were dropping many depth charges to destroy my submarines. When my ship grounded on the coral reef at the entrance of the harbor, your ship could fire the guns onto my ship. Of course, it is very easy to sink my submarine if the depth charges or gunshots hit my ship directly. 3, you had success to interfere in my attempt and rescued the battleship. Also, you had success to avoid my anger to launch the torpedoes. 4, although you failed to destroy my ship, you had success to fulfill your aim to put my ship in no works. So, I was failed to die, and it was shameful as old Japanese. But I'm writing to you as a new Japanese, and it's some like enjoyable thing to me. And this is very interesting. He ends by saying, now I am working in Toyota Motor Company. Don't buy it. Which is top automobile maker in Japan. This is 1969. We exported 26,000 units to the USA in last year. Address of our agent is as follows. So very truly, Kazuo Sakamaki. And Mr. Sakamaki retired, I'd say about 5-6 years ago. And by this time, he was the general manager of the Toyota Motor Works in Brazil. Had gone to Brazil. All right. And today, as far as I know, he's still alive, hale and hearty, and he is living in Tokyo as a retired gentleman. Okay.
Thank you.
On that high note, let's end. A lot of us here have known Ed Nakasone for many years in the Army Reserve Program. And Ed is a retired full colonel from the Army Reserve and was just a few years ago a commandant in the intelligence school at Fort McCoy. So he knows McCoy backwards and forwards. He was always our guide down there. He's also at present an instructor at Lakewood Community College at White Bear Lake. So thanks again, Ed. That was marvelous.
Support for this program provided by viewers like you. Thank you. Additional support provided through the Catherine B. Anderson Fund of the St. Paul Foundation. Upcoming roundtable topics can be found at www.mn-ww2roundtable.org. Production services provided by Barrows Productions.